I never thought my own family would stab me in the back financially. As a 32-year-old financial analyst who worked hard for everything I had, I trusted my stepfamily with emergency access to my credit cards. We had grown close since my mother passed, or so I thought. Then one ordinary Tuesday, notifications flooded my phone. $30,000. A luxury Bali vacation, first-class flights, 5-star resorts, and they had not even invited me. Before I tell you what happened when they landed, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you have ever been taken advantage of by family. Growing up in Chicago, I learned the value of financial responsibility early. My father died when I was 12, leaving my mother and me to figure things out on our own. I worked through high school, paid my way through college, and landed a solid position at a financial firm downtown. My colleagues often teased me about being too careful with money, but that discipline helped me build a respectable savings account and maintain an excellent credit score of 820. When my mother remarried Thomas when I was 15, our modest 2-bedroom apartment was suddenly replaced with a sprawling suburban home with a 3-car garage. Thomas brought wealth and also his family into our lives. His wife Heather, who was 38, along with her 2 adult children, Jackson, who was 28, and Audrey, who was 25. The transition was not easy. As a teenager who had just gotten used to being the man of the house, suddenly having a stepfather and 2 step-siblings felt like an invasion. Jackson, with his business degree and startup ambitions, initially seemed too slick to trust. Audrey, fresh out of art school and perpetually planning her next exhibition, came across as entitled and disconnected from financial reality. But over time, what began as awkward family dinners evolved into something that resembled genuine connection. We celebrated holidays together, helped each other through tough times, and gradually formed bonds that I believed were real. When Thomas would boast about his 3 successful children to his colleagues, I actually felt proud to be counted among them. Everything changed 3 years ago, when my mother was diagnosed with aggressive pancreatic cancer. The disease moved quickly, and within 6 months she was gone. During those painful months, my stepfamily surprised me with their support. Heather coordinated hospital visits and home care. Jackson helped manage insurance paperwork. Audrey decorated my mother's room with artwork and fresh flowers every week. After the funeral, we all leaned on each other to get through the grief. Thomas took it especially hard, turning increasingly to alcohol to numb his pain. His successful real estate business began to suffer, and his health declined rapidly. During a particularly scary episode, when he experienced chest pains at 3 in the morning, I drove him to the emergency room while Heather was out of town visiting her sister. That night in the hospital waiting room, Heather called me sobbing with gratitude. "What would we do without you, Brantley? You are the rock in this family now." The next day, after Thomas was discharged with warnings about stress and alcohol consumption, I made a decision that I would later deeply regret. I added Heather, Jackson, and Audrey as authorized users on my credit cards, but only for genuine emergencies. I clearly explained my boundaries. "These are for true emergencies only," I told them as we sat around Thomas's kitchen table. "Medical situations, car breakdowns in dangerous areas, that sort of thing. I am saving for a house and investing in my future. So please respect these boundaries." They nodded solemnly, and Heather even teared up. "This means the world to us, Brantley. We promise to honor your trust." For nearly 2 years, everything seemed fine. Then small, unexplained charges began appearing on my statements. A $200 dinner at an upscale restaurant, a $300 shopping trip at Nordstrom, a $500 spa day. Each time I confronted them, there was always a reasonable explanation. "Oh, I thought Thomas had another episode and needed to get to the hospital quickly, so I took a luxury Uber, but it turned out to be indigestion." Heather explained about the $200 charge. "I was stranded after a business meeting and needed appropriate clothes for an unexpected client dinner," was Jackson's excuse for the Nordstrom spree. I wanted to believe them. I needed to believe them. These people were the only family I had left. So I accepted their apologies and their promises that it would not happen again, despite the knot forming in my stomach that told me something was not right. Then came the dinner that should have been my final warning. We gathered at Thomas's house for his birthday, and the conversation turned to dream vacations. "I have always wanted to see Bali, Audrey," sighed dreamily. Those infinity pools overlooking the ocean, luxury villas with private butlers. Why not make it happen? Jackson chimed in, shooting a quick glance at Heather. Maybe someday, Heather replied with an odd smile. Not once during this conversation did anyone look at me or suggest I might be included in such plans. At the time, I thought nothing of it. I was busy at work and not particularly interested in tropical getaways. If only I had paid attention to the meaningful looks they exchanged across the table. The morning everything fell apart started like any other Tuesday. I was preparing for a client presentation when my phone began buzzing with fraud alerts. At first, I assumed it was a mistake or perhaps one small, unauthorized purchase. I nearly silenced the notifications to deal with later. Thank goodness I did not. The first alert showed a charge of $12,000 at the Four Seasons Resort in Bali. My heart began racing as I scrolled through more notifications. $8,500 for 3 first-class tickets on Singapore Airlines, $5,000 at designer boutiques in Singapore, $2,500 in dinner reservations at Michelin-starred restaurants across Bali, another $2,000 for private yacht excursions, temple tours and spa treatments. My hands shook so violently, I could barely hold my phone. $30,000. $30,000 that I had saved meticulously over years of careful budgeting, saying no to vacations of my own, bringing lunch to work and living in a modest apartment despite my comfortable salary. I felt physical pain in my chest, like someone had reached inside and was squeezing my heart. My vision blurred, and for a moment I thought I might actually pass out at my desk. A cold sweat broke out across my forehead as I tried to process what was happening. Brantley, are you okay? My coworker Marissa approached my desk with concern. You look like you just saw a ghost. I need to make some calls, I managed to choke out before grabbing my phone and rushing to an empty conference room. First I tried calling Heather. Straight to voicemail. Then Jackson. Same result. Audrey's phone rang endlessly with no answer. I sent text messages to all three, increasingly frantic and angry. What is going on with these charges? Call me. Immediately. $30,000 on my cards. Are you serious? This is theft. Call me back now, no responses. With trembling fingers, I opened Instagram and saw what confirmed my worst fears. Audrey had posted a selfie just 3 hours earlier, posing in business class with a champagne flute captioned, "Surprise family vacation begins. Bali. Here we come, number blessed." The photo showed all three of them smiling widely, toasting with champagne. Jackson had commented, "So glad we finally made this happen. Dad will be fine on his own for a week." I scrolled through their profiles and found more evidence. They had been planning this for weeks, carefully timing it for when I was scheduled to be away at a financial conference in Boston. They had deliberately waited until I would be distracted with work to run up these charges. My next call was to my bank's fraud department. The representative was sympathetic but clinical. "Yes, Mr. Anderson, we see the charges. However, these individuals are authorized users on your account. But I never authorized these specific purchases." I explained, my voice rising. They were only supposed to use the cards for emergencies. Unfortunately, sir, from a legal standpoint, once you add someone as an authorized user, they have the right to make purchases. The agreement between you regarding when they should use the card is not something the bank can enforce. So what are my options? You can remove them as authorized users and cancel the cards immediately to prevent further charges. Or you can dispute the charges as unauthorized, but since they are authorized users, such disputes are rarely successful. I thanked her and hung up, my mind racing. I needed more information before I made my next move. Returning to my desk, I logged into my email account and searched for any communication from my stepfamily. Nothing recent, but as I dug deeper into older emails, I found something disturbing. 3 months ago, Jackson had emailed Heather and Audrey about Operation Vacation and accidentally copied me. I had overlooked it at the time, assuming it was about their own trip planning. The email contained detailed discussions about my credit limits, which cards had the best rewards for international travel, and even a schedule of my work commitments, so they could time their theft perfectly. They had made small test purchases over the previous months to see if I would notice or object. Most hurtful was a line from Audrey Brantley, is so uptight about money he probably has not taken a real vacation in years. His cards should treat us better than he treats himself. Besides, he makes plenty at that fancy finance job. I felt sick. This was not a mistake or a misunderstanding. This was calculated theft from someone they knew worked hard for his money. They had discussed it, planned it, and laughed about it. With shaking hands, I called Thomas. He answered on the fourth ring, his voice groggy from what I assumed was another day of drinking. Brantley. What is it? Did you know about this? About them taking a vacation to Bali on my credit cards? A long pause followed. Too long. Thomas, look, he finally slurred, they deserved a break. Heather has been taking care of me through all this. The kids have been stressed with work. They plan to pay you back eventually. $30,000, Thomas. They stole $30,000 from me. Do not be so dramatic. It is just money. You have plenty. Family helps family. I ended the call and sat in stunned silence. The betrayal was complete. Even Thomas, who I had rushed to the hospital and supported through his grief, saw nothing wrong with his family stealing from me. That night I could not sleep. I paced my apartment, alternating between rage, hurt, and disbelief. I thought about all the times I had helped them, the interest-free loan I gave Jackson for his failed startup, the rent I covered for Audrey when her gallery was between shows, the weekends I spent helping Thomas organize his home office when his business was struggling. I called my friend Damien, the only person I trusted completely, and explained the situation. You know what the worst part is? I said, my voice breaking. I would have helped them if they had just asked. I might have even offered to contribute to a family vacation. But they chose to steal instead. So what are you going to do? Damien asked. That was the question I wrestled with all night. I could simply cancel the cards and try to move on accepting the loss. I could threaten legal action, though the bank had already warned me about the challenges of disputing charges by authorized users. Or I could find a way to make them understand the consequences of their actions. As dawn broke, I made my decision. They had chosen their path. Now, I would choose mine. I took the day off work, something I rarely did, and set up what my friend Damien jokingly called revenge headquarters in my living room. My laptop displayed multiple windows, my credit card accounts, flight tracking information for Singapore Airlines Flight SQ 7299, the Four Seasons Bali booking system, and my stepfamily's social media accounts where they had been, posting updates about their dream vacation. Their flight had departed Chicago at 11:30 p.m. the previous night, and they were now somewhere over the Pacific Ocean, completely unreachable for the next 12 hours. Before executing my plan, I called my lawyer Sandra Myers to understand the potential legal ramifications of what I was about to do. As the primary account holder, you have every right to cancel your credit cards at any time, she assured me. The authorized users have no legal claim to continued access. As for canceling reservations, they made with your cards. Those are your charges legally, so you can cancel services you have paid for. Could they sue me for stranding them, I asked. They could try, but they would be admitting to using your cards without specific permission for non-emergency purposes. I doubt they would want that on record. Just make sure you do not say or write anything that could be construed as intentionally putting them in danger. With legal clarification in hand, I began methodically executing my plan. First, I called each credit card company and explained that I needed to cancel the cards due to unauthorized use by former authorized users. I requested new cards with completely different numbers to be expedited to my address. And you want to cancel these immediately, correct, Mr. Anderson? Asked the representative from my primary card. Yes, immediately, I confirmed, picturing the cards becoming useless plastic in my stepsister's designer purse. Next came the reservations. I called the Four Seasons Bali directly. This is Brantley Anderson. I regrettably need to cancel a reservation made under my name for Heather Jackson and Audrey Anderson. I provided the confirmation number from my email. The charges were made to my credit card without my authorization. I see, sir. This is quite unusual for a party that is scheduled to arrive tomorrow. There will be substantial cancellation fees. I understand. Please proceed with the cancellation and refund whatever portion is refundable to my original form of payment. One by one, I methodically canceled every restaurant reservation, every excursion, every spa appointment. With each cancellation, I felt a strange mix of regret and satisfaction. I had never been a vindictive person, but their betrayal had awakened something in me, a determination to stand up for myself that I had often suppressed in the name of keeping peace. The final step was to contact the emergency travel assistance service provided by my premium credit card. "I want to be absolutely clear," I told the agent. "I am canceling my cards and these reservations, but I do not want my former authorized users to be in physical danger. Can you confirm that the American Embassy in Bali would be able to assist them if needed?" "Yes, sir. American citizens in emergency situations abroad can seek assistance from the embassy. They can help with emergency communications, provide lists of local resources, and in extreme cases assist with repatriation loans for return flights to the United States." I thanked her and made one final call to my bank to lock down my accounts and ensure no one could access my savings or checking accounts. I changed all my passwords, enabled two-factor authentication, and even put a temporary freeze on my credit to prevent any new accounts from being opened in my name. By late afternoon, the plan was complete. I looked at the flight tracker showing their plane over the Pacific Ocean, still 6 hours from landing. They had no idea what awaited them. Their cards were already declined if they tried to use them. Their luxury resort had no record of their reservation. Their planned week of extravagance had evaporated while they slept on their first-class flight. As evening fell, I ordered takeout, poured myself a glass of whiskey, and waited. The first contact came at 4:17 a.m., my time, a frantic call from Audrey. "Brantley, something is wrong. We just landed and tried to get a car to the hotel, but all the cards are declining. What is happening?" I took a slow, deliberate sip of my drink before answering. "The cards declined because I canceled them." "You what?" Her voice rose to a shriek. "Why would you do that? We are in a foreign country. Why would I cancel cards that were used to steal $30,000 from me?" "Is that your question, Audrey? We did not steal anything. We were going to pay you back. When? With what money? And why did you not ask me first?" We knew you would say no. You are always so uptight about money. You are right. I am uptight about not having my hard-earned savings stolen by people I trusted. By the way, your hotel reservation has also been canceled. Along with those Michelin star dinner reservations, the private yacht tour, and everything else you charged to my cards. The line went silent for a moment before Audrey began sobbing. "You cannot do this to us. We are stranded here with nowhere to go. The American Embassy can help citizens in emergency situations. I suggest you contact them." I ended the call as Jackson tried to take the phone from Audrey. Within minutes, my phone lit up with calls and texts from both of them, alternating between desperate pleas and angry threats. "You will regret this. Please, Brantley. We have nowhere to sleep tonight. I will sue you for putting us in danger. Just help us this once, and we will never ask for anything again." I silenced my phone and went to bed, sleeping better than I had in weeks. For once, I had stood up for myself, instead of trying to keep the peace at my own expense. The consequences of their actions were now theirs to bear, not mine. The next morning, I awoke to a voicemail from Thomas, his voice slurred with what sounded like a combination of alcohol and rage. "How dare you strand my family in a foreign country? After everything we have done for you, your mother would be ashamed." That last line might have broken me before, but now, it only strengthened my resolve. My mother had taught me to be generous, but not to be a doormat. She would have been ashamed of them, not me. Later that day, I received an email from Heather. They had managed to contact friends back home who wired them enough money for a modest hotel for 2 nights. The embassy had explained their options for emergency loans to purchase return tickets, economy class, not the first class they had enjoyed on the way there. "We understand. You are upset," Heather wrote, "but this reaction is extreme. We are family. We make mistakes, we forgive, we move forward. Please reconsider and help us salvage some of this trip we have been planning for months." The audacity of her email made me laugh out loud. Planning for months. Yes, planning to steal from me for months. I did not respond. 3 days later, my stepfamily returned to Chicago, humiliated and furious. They had spent most of their time in Bali at the embassy and in their budget hotel room arranging emergency funds and return flights. The luxury vacation they had envisioned had turned into a stressful international incident. Thomas insisted on a family meeting at his house, likely expecting me to apologize for my overreaction. I agreed to attend, but on my terms. I arrived with printouts of their emails, discussing their plans, screenshots of their social media posts, and a complete record of the unauthorized charges. Before anyone speaks, I said as I sat down at the dining room table where we had shared so many meals, I want to make something absolutely clear. You stole from me. This was not a misunderstanding or a mistake. It was premeditated theft. That is a harsh word to use about family. Heather began, her voice wobbling with practiced emotion. Family does not steal $30,000 from family. I replied evenly, sliding the printouts across the table. Family does not mock someone's financial responsibility while taking advantage of their trust. Jackson leaned forward, his business negotiation face on. Look, we admit we should have asked first. That was wrong. But calling it theft is going too far. We always intended to pay you back. With what money, Jackson, your startup failed? You have been living in Thomas's guest house, rent-free, for 2 years. Where was this $30,000 going to come from? His face reddened, but he had no answer. Audrey tried next. We just wanted a special family trip. After everything with Mom and Thomas's health scares, we needed something positive. A special family trip that excluded me, planned behind my back, and funded with my money. That is not family, Audrey. That is exploitation. Thomas slammed his hand on the table. Enough. This ends now. Brantley, you have made your point. They made a mistake. Now you will accept their apology, and we will all move forward as a family. I looked at Thomas, seeing clearly for the first time how he had always enabled his wife and stepchildren's entitled behavior. No, Thomas. That is not how this works. There will be consequences. And they start today. I outlined my non-negotiable terms. They would sign legally binding agreements to repay every dollar they had charged. They would seek financial counseling at their own expense. They would have no access to any of my financial information or accounts ever again. And until the debt was fully repaid, our relationship would be limited to necessary family functions only. This is ridiculous, Heather protested. We cannot afford those payments. Then you should not have spent money you did not have, I replied calmly. My lawyer has prepared the paperwork. Sign it, or I will pursue this legally and publicly. The threat of public embarrassment finally broke through their entitlement. One by one, they signed the agreements, their faces a mix of resentment and defeat. As I prepared to leave, Thomas followed me to the door. You know, he said quietly, I always thought you were the sensible one. The responsible one. I never thought you could be so cold. I turned to face him. I am still that responsible person, Thomas. The difference is that now I am being responsible to myself first. I cannot help others if I allow them to destroy me. The weeks that followed were difficult. I moved to a new apartment and did not share my address with any of them. I started seeing a therapist to work through my feelings of betrayal and guilt. There were moments when I questioned my decision, wondering if I had overreacted or damaged relationships beyond repair. But slowly I began to heal. I connected with a financial support group where I met others who had experienced family financial abuse. I formed deeper friendships with colleagues like Marissa, who had shown genuine concern during my crisis. I even started dating again, being careful to establish healthy boundaries from the beginning. 6 months later, I received the first repayment check from Jackson, along with a letter that seemed genuinely remorseful. Audrey had taken a full-time job instead of pursuing her art, and had also begun making small but consistent payments. Heather remained distant, but she too was fulfilling her financial obligation. Thomas called on my birthday, his voice clearer than it had been in years. He mentioned he had joined AA and was 4 months sober. What you did, he said hesitantly. It was a wake-up call for all of us. I do not agree with how you did it, but I understand why you did it. And maybe we needed it. I did not commit to forgiveness or reconciliation during that call. Those might come with time or they might not. What mattered was that I had finally learned to value myself enough to establish and maintain boundaries even with family. Today, I sleep peacefully knowing that I will never again allow someone to take advantage of my generosity or mistake my kindness for weakness. Family is important, but self-respect is essential. Sometimes the hardest lesson to learn is that not everyone who shares your blood or your home deserves your unconditional trust. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who took advantage of you? What boundaries did you have to set to protect yourself? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life stories about establishing healthy boundaries. And remember, sharing these stories helps others who might be going through similar situations right now. Thank you for listening, and may you always find the strength to protect your peace, your finances, and your self-worth.